Hello, welcome back to CinemaBurger, where I bring you movie reviews from a different perspective. Today we're here to talk about the long-awaited release of Godzilla vs. Kong, the fourth movie in the MonsterVerse from Warner Brothers and Legendary Pictures. As you can see, I have my Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah shirt on. So, of course, like many other movies, Godzilla vs. Kong was delayed because of COVID, but before that, it was also delayed because of the not as favorable reviews for Godzilla King of the Monsters. But it was finally released on HBO Max and in theaters the same day. So it takes place a year or two after King of the Monsters, where Godzilla is still the dominant alpha. Kong is living on Skull Island still, but due to a storm, and so that Godzilla can't find him, he's covered in like a dome on Skull Island, so he's kind of like hidden from the world. So, of course, they're going to eventually set him up to fight. There will be spoilers in this review. Now, the plot revolves around Godzilla's been attacking places in the world, specifically Florida and stuff. There's a new tech company called Apex, which Godzilla has attacked in Florida once or so. So people are worried, okay, Godzilla's attacking now. If he's not the savior, who will be? Who can challenge Godzilla? And of course, it's King Kong. Now, of course, this is about 30 years later from Kong Skull Island, so King Kong is a lot bigger. As they stated, he would keep growing because he was just a kid. So he is now about the same size as Godzilla. He is discovered that the place he's living in isn't fully real, that he sees the dome above his housing. So what Kong vs. Godzilla does very well is, first of all, it gets rid of a lot of the human character stuff. Like, there are human characters, of course, but they're very minimal. It does focus on the monsters. Now, this movie does focus a lot more on Kong than Godzilla. It feels like a more sequel to Kong Skull Island, as Kong is kind of portrayed more as the hero than Godzilla. Of course, Godzilla in his past movies has been portrayed as a hero and a villain. Now, the last time Godzilla and King Kong fought on screen was back in 1962, when Toho and Universal came together to pit the two monsters together. Now, fun fact, I'm a Godzilla mega fan. I have every Godzilla movie and some of the King Kong movies on Blu-ray and DVD, and I've seen most every version of the Godzilla and the King Kong movies. So there are some nice references in the new one, like when Godzilla and Kong fight, Kong shoves a tree trunk down Godzilla's throat in the original movie, and this time he shoves something down Godzilla's throat in this movie too. So now, in the past Godzilla and King Kong movies, they talk about a hollow earth theory of how the monsters can get around the world so much, so this talks about that a lot more. Now, Alright, first of all, in the MonsterVerse as a whole, when we started in the 2014 Godzilla, everything was as grounded and as realistic as possible. Kong Skull Island, the same, it was still very realistic. Now, King of the Monsters went a little different because they introduced Ghidorah, which is, of course, an alien, but it still felt very real. Now, this movie does kind of throw realism to the side, but at the same time, it's called Godzilla vs. King Kong. It's about two giant monsters fighting. Like, why you're not here for realism? That's some of the other critics' reviews, like, oh, it's not real, or something. I'm like, it's Godzilla vs. King Kong. Now, in the earlier Godzilla movies, in the late 60s and early 70s, that's when they kind of started going off the rails and became a little silly. Now, this movie, Godzilla vs. Kong in 2021, is goofy and fun. You can actually see the monster fights. They're in the daytime, which Godzilla 2014 and King of the Monsters were some of the issues with. You couldn't see a lot of the stuff. And the fights are spread out very well throughout the movie. There's like at least 3 big major fights. And they have like character development. We have the Millie Bobby Brown character back from the other Godzilla movie, but you don't care about her. You have the Kong team, they have Alexander Skarsgård, who's wrote a book about the Hollow Earth theory, and his brother died trying to get to the Hollow Earth. Now Kong interacts with this deaf girl who is one of the Iwi tribe from Skull Island. They got wiped out during that storm, so they kind of have a bond together. So that's like King Kong uses sign language to communicate with this girl. And when we actually get to the, when they go into the Earth, there's this weird, kind of like a wormhole in the middle of the Earth that takes them to this other land where they believe all the Titans came from. And you find out, you see Godzilla and Kong's ancestors were at a war and stuff like that, and there's this energy in the middle of the Earth that they want and stuff, because Apex is developing some sort of big tech thing and they need this energy or whatever. And also in the center of the Earth area, gravity is kind of off or whatever. It's weird, but so Kong finds this axe made with a spike of the Godzilla tail fin, which can kind of harness energy, so Kong can fight back. So we'll talk about the 3 fights. The first one is they get Kong and they're on the way to the center of the Earth, and they take water roots that's out of Godzilla's territory, but of course he finds them. So this is the first fight between Godzilla and Kong. It's pretty awesome. They fight on aircraft carriers, and Kong gets his ass kicked. Then the second fight is after they come out of the Hollow Earth, because they're in Hong Kong because there's an Apex facility there where they're developing a giant weapon. And Godzilla and Kong fight again, but this time Kong has this axe and he kicks Godzilla's ass, kind of. But then we finally find out what Apex is developing. And it's Mechagodzilla. Yes, we have Mechagodzilla in this movie. It was kind of teased before the movie came out, and you could see it in the trailer a little bit, but that's why Apex needs this material, this energy source from the center of the Earth to power Mechagodzilla, because they were having trouble getting full power out of Mechagodzilla. Now also, they've been using the skull crawlers to test out on Mechagodzilla back from Kong Skull Island, so it's a nice reference there. So of course, when Mechagodzilla is set up, they also have a character who turns out to be Dr. Serizawa's son from the first movie, but they never really say that. They use a neural link thing where he can control Mechagodzilla, and also they use the Ghidorah skulls to connect a neural link. So it's kind of like Pacific Rim in a way, and also it's a nice reference to Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, which is from the Millennium series of movies, where the government in Japan builds a Mechagodzilla with the skeleton of the original Godzilla, and it wakes up and remembers. So it's a nice reference there. And the Pacific Rim thing I was talking about was because eventually, at one point there was supposed to be a crossover with all 3, Godzilla, King Kong, and Pacific Rim. So Godzilla and Kong have to team up to fight Mechagodzilla, and it's pretty awesome as well. Now, yeah, and there's another human character who is a conspiracy theory who is working for Apex, played by Brian Tyree, and they get together with Millie Bobby Brown to figure out what's going on in Apex, and it's they're easily able to infiltrate this big company. So that's kind of dumb. Now, of course, a lot of monster movies and things like that are over 2 hours. This movie is 1 hour and 54 minutes. It's a nice length. It's under 2 hours. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And, like I said, it's obviously not based in reality, but even from the beginning of the MonsterVerse, it kind of jumps the shark a bit. But I feel like each movie, though, they gradually like did more and more things that were less grounded. This one did jump a lot further from King of the Monsters than previous movies. But like I said, you're watching a movie about two monsters fighting. You're not looking for realism. And they did a good job of not drowning the movie with too much human plot. Now, even though movie theaters are open and Warner Brothers has been releasing their 2021 slate on HBO Max the same day, I've chosen to still watch it at home, but this is like the only movie in like last year I actually wanted to see in theaters, but I didn't. But I hope they continue the MonsterVerse. This movie's a lot of fun. You can, like I said, you can see the fights. Godzilla and Kong are fun, and they're let's say this movie's more about Kong than Godzilla, because last time Godzilla was like the star. But Godzilla has also been a secondary character in movies with him, like Mothra versus Godzilla, and like Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, back in the 60s and stuff. So there's a lot of nice references to past Godzilla and King Kong movies. There's a college called Denham University. Of course, Carl Denham was the movie director who wanted to go find Kong on Skull Island. And there's even like another Warner Brothers movie reference. You might spot it later in the end of the movie. But at the end of the movie, it's like Godzilla and Kong have like a mutual respect for each other. And I hope they do more with the MonsterVerse, because originally this was, I think, going to be the last movie, but since this movie's doing very well, they might do more, and I really hope they do. I even thought of an idea they could do, but we'll talk about that another time. So, how would I rate Godzilla vs. Kong? Well, in terms of a monster movie and, like, seeing the fights, I really would give it, like, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. Like, yeah, you need human characters and stuff, but, yeah, they kept them out enough, and, I mean, the movie is kind of very predictable as well, so that's where I give it, like, take away that half a star, but if you're looking for a fun monster movie that's silly and fun, just like, this is exactly what you want. Alright, I'm Scott Berger, and I'll see you next time.